Dit is 'n splinternuwe uitgawe van 'n topverkoper, Jason Lee's Retire Rich Through Property, bied vir die leser opgedateerde inligting oor hoe om 'n eiendomsportfolio op te bou en seker te maak jy kan aftree sonder enige finansiële stres. Ons gesels nou met Jason Lee self regstreeks via Skype. Hy is natuurlik in Vancouver. Hallo Jason.
Hello, Devon. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, thanks for being with us. Jason, there's one big thing that kind of appealed to me about your book is that you say that we have to change our thinking around retirement. How so?
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the biggest flaws in retirement thinking at the moment is a lot of people don't actually do much thinking about it. Statistically, it's been shown how many people actually spend more time planning a vacation or buying a new car than actually thinking about their financial future. So the one thing I really try and look at in the book is to really sit down and think about your financial future.
Okay. One big thing that people often do is they rely on either companies to build their retirement as such, or for the government to do that on their behalf. Your view is that property should actually be the way for you to retire. Just explain to me more about that.
Sure. I mean, people do rely a lot on government and company pension funds. The other thing that people like to do is to outsource their retirement planning to financial planners. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but I just don't think it's a good idea to give complete control of your entire investment portfolio to a planner. You know, growing up, I always used to admire, wealthy people, wealthy companies, and always wondered how they did it. And what I discovered was that in almost every situation, most of them had a substantial property portfolio. And in the book, I talk about how, in my view, property is really the cornerstone of wealth creation. Because if you look at wealthy people, that is where they build their wealth from.
A lot of people say that obviously buying property is probably one of the biggest investments that we'll ever make. If that's such a big call, that also means there's quite a lot of risk in buying property. But your book very clearly stipulates kind of the process in which you can reduce the risk while buying property. Just give me some idea on how I can reduce my risk when buying property.
Absolutely. You know, I think property is as risky as any other investment. And, to borrow a phrase from Winston Churchill, I've often said that, property is the worst kind of investment except for all the others. I think what makes property such a fantastic investment is that you can mitigate the risk through, doing your homework in terms of the offer to purchase, making sure that you fill out the documentation correctly. The one thing I've actually done in this book at the back is I've put 3 addendums. It covers physical and legal considerations, as well as a proper due diligence checklist that investors can use to make sure that they do their homework before buying.
Please tell me, so at the moment in South Africa, there's a lot of first-time buyers trying to enter the market. But the problem with first-time buyers often is that they battle to secure a first-time loan. They should actually be the easiest to grant a loan to, but you still see that first-time buyers battle to get home loans. You've got a bit of a different approach to team buying or group buying. Just give me an idea of how that would work.
Sure. I mean, just to go back a step, even though it's more difficult these days to get finance to buy property, it's still easier than trying to get finance to, for example, buy shares on the stock market or even to invest in a business. The one thing I look at in the book and what I've done successfully in my own investing is whenever you approach the bank for finance, often people will try to raise money for a business or even to buy a franchise. And they put together this amazing business plan. It will have 30 pages with feasibilities and all sorts of spreadsheets. But when they're trying to buy property, they often just hand over an offer to purchase and maybe some FICA documents. What I started doing very early on in my career was to actually put very comprehensive business plans together, even for small deals. And what I found was that once I built a relationship with the bank on small deals using the business plan, it became much easier to finance bigger deals. I'm a big believer in team sport, and when I've always said property is the greatest team sport ever invented. I would say that the majority of the deals I've done over the years have incorporated other investors, and that's the beauty of property. You can bring private people in, you can bring the bank in, and if you know how to sort of be the conductor of the orchestra, anything's possible.
If I am going to ask you the question, so a lot of people say commercial property versus residential property. If I do have, say, 2.5 million rand today and I gave that to you, where should I go and buy property?
I would say the majority of my portfolio at the moment is in commercial, but that was after many years of doing residential deals. And I would say that, for someone new in the business, investing for the first time, I would definitely stick to the residential side. and possibly look at commercial down the line. Commercial in the long run is probably easier to run, less tenant issues, or that kind of thing, but it does take a more experienced investor. So I would say your 2.5 million, I think a detached standalone home, always a great investment in South Africa.
Perfect. Jason, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you, Devin. Appreciate it.
Dit was Jason Lee uit Vancouver uit en ons het gesels oor sy boek Retire Rich Through Property.